Greetings, Mr. Rogues here, yet again reporting from the old madhouse. Yeah, that's right, the Court of Owls. Whoever said this series only had to include obscure villains? Any villain I feel have untapped potential can apply to this series, no matter how big or small they are. Because there's lots of major Batman villains out there who haven't really been utilized in the proper way, at least in my opinion. I really haven't talked much at all about the Court of Owls on this channel. I've really only made one single video specifically dedicated to them, and that was 5 years ago, a very long time ago when I just started out YouTube. So I felt it was time I finally talked about the Court of Owls again. Now there is actually a reason I haven't talked much about them, and that is because I don't like them very much. Or perhaps, should I say, I don't really like the way they've been used. And that's what this video is about. The potential that I see in the Court of Owls and the ways they haven't been used in. Of course, I realize some of you will disagree with me and feel that they have been used perfectly and shouldn't be changed at all. And that's fine, that's perfectly fine. So what even is the Court of Owls? Well, the Court of Owls is a very old society that's basically been around as long as Gotham City has been around. It's a secret society consisting of the rich and influential people of Gotham. And they all wear these creepy looking owl masks whenever they get together. And they also have an army of owl-themed zombie ninjas. The Talons. And so what does the court and their army of Talons do? Well, I don't know. They don't really seem to be doing a whole lot of anything, to be honest. The Court of Owls made a smash debut in the very beginning of the New 52 back in 2011. They were part of the first big Batman arc of the New 52, written by Scott Snyder and penciled by Greg Capullo. And that appearance in the first big New 52 Batman arc is almost entirely where all of their popularity and hype comes from, because not much else has been done with them since then. I mean, there's been some stuff, and they have actually appeared in other media as well, a little bit, like for instance they appeared on the Gotham TV show, but they really haven't been a whole lot. I mean, if you ask a person what Court of Owls comic should I read, all of them will say the Court of Owls arc from the New 52, because that's almost entirely all there is. They are set to appear very soon in a new big video game though, Batman Gotham Knights, or just Gotham Knights, whatever it's called. The game that's set after Batman's presumably dead and his sidekicks have taken over as the protectors of Gotham. The court appears to be the main villains of that game, at least according to the marketing, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, besides some appearances, a lot of writers seems to have issues figuring out what exactly to do with the court after their first big arc. There could also be some issues with Scott Snyder maybe, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he doesn't really want people to use them too much because they're his babies, so to speak. I don't really know, that could be an issue. I mean, considering how popular they are, the Court of Owls are moving kinda slowly. It's been over a decade ago since they first appeared now, and compare that to other more modern Batman villains. For example, Bane. Within just a few years he had appeared in a movie and an animated show. Now, the point of this video is actually not to say that the court should be used more and more often and in more things, because I actually don't kinda want that. Yeah, I know, I'm not really making any sense now, but I don't want the court to pop up everywhere and kinda take over. Instead, what I actually want is the court to be used differently, because I have a lot of issues with the Court of Owls. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't like them all that much. One reason I don't like them is because they don't really make a whole lot of sense. We don't know much about them. What do they want? What are they even doing in Gotham? We don't really see the court being up to any specific activities. They're just kinda there. And another reason is they have no personality, because they are all anonymous, masked people. They're no real characters. And the ones that are characters, like Lincoln March, a So the reimagining of Owlman, I don't really like all that much. And the Talons, I don't like the Talons. So what is the Court of Owls? The Court of Owls is a bunch of anonymous, non-character people in masks who employs an army of zombie ninjas. And what do I want the Court of Owls to be? Well, I want them to be a sort of Illuminati of Gotham City, a sort of Eyes Wide Shut type of thing. This cult, this secret society who control things in Gotham behind the curtains. Because on the surface level, that's what the Court of Owls is. But we don't really get much of that. All we really get is Batman fighting a bunch of zombie ninjas. That's what we get from the Court of Owls. I feel like the Court of Owls is marketed as characters or as a concept in one way, but then what we actually get is something different. I want to really see what they're actually marketed as. This creepy secret society of the wealthy and influential of Gotham City, controlling it behind the curtains. Not a bunch of zombie ninja fights. So the first thing I would do is I would just remove the Talons completely. I don't feel the court needs the Talons. I feel that the Talons only distract from the court and they feel too silly, to be honest, to be attached to the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls is supposed to be a more serious and kind of down-to-earth threat as opposed to these huge flamboyant supervillains. At least that's what I get from it. But then you attach these zombie ninjas to it and, you know, it just doesn't mesh at all in my opinion. And it takes away from what the court is supposed to be. Maybe calling the Talons silly isn't quite the proper word. Maybe the proper word is stupid. Yeah, to be honest, I feel the concept is kind of stupid, even for Batman, who has a lot of weird, outlandish concepts in his universe. I'm not saying the Talons shouldn't exist at all in the Batman universe, but not attached to the Court of Owls. They feel more like something Batman encounters in some weird one-shot story and then they never appear again. The Talons, I mean. And remove Lincoln March, aka Thomas Wayne Jr. from the picture. I think that character is just silly. I mean, come on, Bruce Wayne's long-lost brother. That's like something out of a soap opera. It's so cheesy. Oh wow, it turns out Bruce actually has a brother. He's had a brother all along and he never knew him. And he happens to be a member of an evil secret society and he hates Bruce and he's coming to kill him. I mean, come on. That is pretty bad writing. Cheesy soap opera writing in my opinion. It's like something out of Dynasty or Days of Our Lives. So get rid of all of those silly, cheesy things and just get down to basics. The Court of Owls, a secret society, old, have existed as long as Gotham. They control everything from behind the scenes. They wear creepy masks when they get together. Feel like there's a ton of potential you can do with this. You could have the court be the reason why Gotham is so miserable and corrupt in the first place. They've been making Gotham corrupt and miserable for decades, maybe even centuries. And instead of consisting of faceless, anonymous people, you can make actual characters from the Batman universe into members of the Court of Owls. Like, for instance, Carmine Falcone could be a member, Commissioner Loeb could be a member, Mayor Hill could be a member, Roman Sionis could even be a member. I mean, he sure loves masks and he is one of the rich and influential, and then perhaps when the court disbands, he goes on his own and becomes Black Mask. I feel like the Court of Owls are the perfect first big villains for Batman in his Batman career. The first ones he encounters that he has to overcome, the first big hurdle for Batman to overcome. They have been making Gotham so horrible, and they are really the reason why Batman is needed in the first place. It's because of them we had people like Joe Chill running around mugging people. Batman's first big mission is to free Gotham from the Court of Owls. And this is why I feel a lot of these characters that usually appear early in Batman's career, like Falcone and Loeb, are perfect candidates for being members. I mean, they're usually depicted as the ones being in control of the city when Batman first appears, and they're the first big threats that Batman has to defeat. So why not just fuse these two things, the court and Falconian crew, just make them one? It makes so much sense in my opinion. Falcone is the richest, most powerful gangster in the city, Loeb is the police commissioner, Hill is the mayor. They are among the most influential and rich people in the city, so naturally they would be members. And then of course you can add some other characters, you can create some new characters. And of course you could also have a backstory of the Waynes being wooed into becoming members of the society, but naturally they decline and probably never really figure out the true scope of the whole thing, just have some clues and it's still left to Bruce several years later as he's become Batman to finally figure this mystery out and defeat the society. You could also tie in the Penguin to the court. He could be a member as well, who then goes on and becomes his own big villain when they disband after Batman's defeated him. Or maybe he was, or his family was, denied membership and he desperately wants to join them. And ironically, when the court has been defeated by Batman, he kind of takes over as the new Court of Owls in a sense, because he becomes, you know, the kingpin of Gotham and controls the entire city from his iceberg lounge. He takes over as the master puppeteer. And he does it without that silly court, sort of shoving it in your faces. You know, he doesn't even need a court, he's doing it on his own and doing it better. He's putting up a much better resistance against Batman than they did. I mean, he's still around. Yeah, just an infinite amount of possibilities you could play around with the Court of Owls and use various different Batman characters to interact with them, instead of just having them the way they are. And I think making them appear early on in Batman's career makes a lot more sense than what they're doing. Like, for instance, in this upcoming video game, I mean, that takes place after Batman's presumably been dead, and I assume this story is about them having secretly controlled the entire city the whole time. And that, to me, doesn't make any sense at all, and is what you absolutely should not do. To reveal much later on that these people have been in control all along, and they have been secretly manipulating all these various supervillains into committing all these crimes. No, that's not what I want at all. And even in the comics, in the New 52, that Court of Owls arc takes place much later in Batman's career. I don't think you should do it that way. They should be early on the first big threat. It just fits better. And the court is a perfect explanation as to why Gotham is so corrupt. Because Gotham is usually portrayed as being ridiculously over-the-top corrupt. And how does a city become like that? Well, the Court of Owls. They made it like that. It's a perfect explanation. And taking this into consideration, I think you would have a perfect replacement for the Talons, because a lot of you are probably wondering when I say throw out the Talons, well, then who's gonna be the court's foot soldiers? The police department. The police department is usually depicted in Batman stories as being ridiculously corrupt, basically hired killers for the mob. The entire police force is an army of hired killers for criminals. That's how they're often depicted, especially in stories set early in Batman's career. So you got your army of killers right there, and it makes a lot more sense than some undead ninjas. The Gotham City Police Department is the fist of the court, especially if Commissioner Loeb is a member. You don't have to have zombie ninjas. Now, a lot of fans want the court to appear in a live-action Batman movie. There's even a lot of people speculating that they're actually gonna appear in Matt Reeves' upcoming The Batman movie. Stop seeing owls everywhere in the trailers. I'm pretty sure they're not gonna appear in a movie at all. Now, I actually want them to appear in a movie as well, but not as the main villains of the movie, like most people seem to want. I don't want an entire movie wasted on the court. I want that reserved for a classic rogue. So what I would want, or what I would do if I was in charge, I'd do what I've been talking about in this video. I'd have them be the secret society that controls Gotham behind the curtains. They've been doing it for centuries, and they're the ones who have made Gotham so corrupt and miserable, and they're the first big hurdle that Batman has to overcome. So it's a movie set early in Batman's career, and we would have another villain in the movie as well, an individual villain, a classic rogue. I don't really know specifically who, but they would be working for the court, hired by them in some capacity. And at first they come off as just a sort of henchman for the court, and the court seem like the big bads of the plot. But then things begin to change. This rogue, whoever it is, begins to grow more brazen, and it becomes apparent that they have an agenda of their own and have just kind of been using the court as a springboard or something. And for the second half of the movie, they take over as the main villain. He could actually be Black Mask. He could be a member, like I said earlier, and he kind of branches off into his own and creates his own false face society. Could do that. Yeah, but that's basically how I see the Court of Owls, and the way I feel they work the best, as opposed to what's actually being done with them right now and what has been done with them. I don't feel that really fits in the Batman world. I think that this makes a lot more sense and gels more. I'm assuming a lot of you are gonna disagree with me, especially about ditching the Talons. But I just wanted to make a video explaining in full my thoughts and feelings on the Court of Owls. It's something I've really needed to do for a while now. A lot of people always wonder what I really think about these characters, or rather this concept. And well, here you have it. Here it all is. Now you know fully how I feel about the Court of Owls. If you have ideas of how to utilize the Court of Owls, ways that you think are better than what's actually being done with them, then write that down in the comments. And of course, as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.